Edgar community. Excited to be here today with a name same from myself, Megan Grant, who is a digital marketing expert, and we're really excited for her to share some of her tips and tricks on how she is able to get content out into the world that people engage with and still stay sane, not being run by her business. One of the reasons that I reached out to Megan actually was because I love this idea that she has all over her LinkedIn page that says, turn your passion into a paycheck. And I know you guys love that vibe as well. So I'm excited to get some tips from her, and I'll pass it over for her to introduce herself a little bit further, and then we'll get into the questions. So Megan, go right ahead.
Great, thank you so much. So my digital marketing agency is Revenue Spark Digital Marketing. And on the agency side, I work with businesses. A lot of them are in the health and fitness nutrition industries. And then also I work with a lot of brands in the digital marketing realm. And I work with them to, help them improve their online presence, especially through blog content. And then I started noticing over the last year or so that a lot of people were in my position where they wanted to learn how to help their clients perform better online. So I've started working with a lot of freelancers, whether it was writers or social media managers, teaching them how to build their own agencies and, essentially do what I'm doing.
That's so great. I love to hear someone who kind of identifies what they're really strong and really good at and putting that into practice. So I would love to hear just some of the tips that when you're first starting out teaching your system and teaching what works well for you to these agencies, what are some fundamentals that you really make sure that you kind of systemize for everyone that works well in the digital marketing space?
So one of my big rule of thumbs, and I know it sounds like such a no-brainer, but I feel like a lot of people don't really prioritize this, is focusing on providing as much value as possible. And I found that was a really big mindset shift for me, as well as some of the people I communicate with, because a lot of us are driven by our revenue. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more clients, more money. I know everyone gets uncomfortable talking about money, but it can't be your sole motivator. So I found that when I really focused on providing as much value as possible, like what can I do to make this brand as successful as possible, it completely changed the course of my business, and naturally as a byproduct, the money will follow. So always focus on providing value, providing quality, and treating their business as personally and as seriously as you would treat your own.
Oh, that's so smart. I love this idea of having value and impact being at the forefront of everything you put out online, whether it's social media, blog content. And then if you're doing that properly, the revenue side will come easily and naturally to you. So I think that is a huge takeaway to go on with your own businesses, is really think to yourself, are you focusing on value in everything you're putting out online? And the revenue will eventually come. I love that so much. So when you create content online, in order to make sure you're offering the most value, what are some of the steps you take, not only to kind of zone in on who you're speaking to and your audience persona, and the language that you're using in order to make sure that it's getting to the right people? Can you walk us through some kind of tangible actions that we can take to make sure that the value we are providing is reaching the right people?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of that answer lies in the analytics that they've already collected from what they've published in the past. I've found that a lot of, especially content creators, analytics seems like a very not artistic side of the business. So for writers especially, because that's my background is in writing, they don't want to deal with it at all. They don't want to deal with numbers. But anyone who is working in the digital sphere has to care about analytics. And if they don't, they have no way of knowing if, what the client has done in the past, has it worked? Did it, blow up in their face? And then also when you start to test new things in the future, the only way you can know if they're working is to measure the results that they bring. So, whether it's Google Analytics or Search Console or, any other tool, like some social media management tools, they have their own native insights and analytics. You have to be measuring your progress. So that's a big one. And then also not being afraid to get a little more personal with your target market. I've got one client and, we were trying to figure out, especially I don't know if I can mention this right now because it's time sensitive, but we're in the middle of coronavirus, and we were wondering exactly what their customers need right now because we're all confined to our homes.
Yeah.
So they've got a huge social media following, and so they ran an Instagram poll and flat out asked, "What do you want right now?" And people responded. We got a huge response saying, "We need this kind of information." So the goal is always to serve up exactly what your target market wants.
Oh, I think those 2 points are really smart. If you're not paying attention to what your followers are liking and not liking from your content and the analytical side, then you're not going to know what to produce more of and what to produce less of. So even if you're creative and you feel like you can't understand analytics, there are tools out there. Facebook Insights makes some really easy graphs to understand. I myself hate numbers, but I can even jump in there and understand it. So dig in if you've never done that before, because that's going to help guide your creativity even stronger to provide that value. And I love this idea of actually asking your audience, because your community is there in this way that they want to actually be a part of building that community. So don't be afraid to put the social into social media and actually ask, hey, what type of content would be valuable for you? Because people will respond. Oftentimes they just don't think to do it if you're not prompting them to. So I love those so much. So when it comes down to actually getting the engagement rates that your clients are looking for, and converting people over to kind of redirecting them to their blog posts rather than just keeping them on social media and stuff like that, do you have any fun tactics that you can share with us for either writing your posts in that fashion or strategies for like when you post, and what you kind of think of when you're creating those systems?
One big thing for me has been focusing on offering some sort of incentive.
Hmm.
Obviously, we all know that when you post something on Facebook, it just gives them a little snippet, a preview. But if you're trying to redirect that traffic back to your site, which is one of the main goals of social media, then you have to give people a reason to not only click, but to click on that page and then stay there.
Hmm.
So a lot of it comes down to giving them kind of like piquing their interest, their curiosity, but also satisfying the user intent, which goes back to giving them the content that they want. And I've noticed, especially over the years, as Google gets more and more savvy with, web content in particular, SEO best practices are still very important, and keywords and optimization, but they've become, from everything I've found, they're less important than they used to be, because all Google cares about is giving people a good experience.
Hmm.
And that doesn't necessarily hinge on keywords. So whether it's social media or email marketing or blogging, it really is about providing the best user experience, customer experience that you possibly can.
Oh, I think that's so smart to remember they're actual humans who are reading your content. It's not just about the algorithm anymore that's looking for keywords like it was at the beginning. So taking that kind of relevancy into account and remembering if you can keep someone on your page, that matters way more than just getting the right keywords.
Yeah.
Love that so, so much. So are there any other things, tools that you use, or any other tips that you can really think about when it comes to getting people to stay on that page, and kind of how you go ahead and look at like which blog posts are getting people to consume the content more than others, or how you actually dig into the analytics of that side?
One big thing that I always look at is, with Facebook specifically, what's driving the most comments, because as of right now, I'm pretty sure the consensus is that the most popular, the most powerful form of engagement is comments on Facebook. It used to be shares. So that will always evolve. But with a lot of my clients, I will go back sometimes just through the native insights on Facebook itself and see what drove the most comments. Not that the other types of engagement don't matter, but we're trying to, give them the most bang for their buck. So I always look at comments first. Other tools that I use a lot for keyword research in particular, I love Keywords Everywhere. It's a Chrome extension. And then also Uber Suggest from Neil Patel. I don't, they don't determine 100% what I write about, but you want to make sure there's an audience for what you're delivering.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love anything that Neil Patel creates. If you guys haven't checked out Uber Suggest yet, it's completely free. Go check it out. It's super easy. Like Megan was mentioning before, if you're not actually taking the time to do the research and dig into analytics like this, it's not going to be as easy to reach your target market. And this tool makes it super easy to see things like those keywords that are popping up in your industry. Cool. So I would love for you to just touch a little bit on how you create content for social media. I know so much of the time we get in this kind of posting paralysis where we'll just sit there and look and be like, what the heck do I post? So how do you combat that? Like when you're creating your content, whether it's uploading a social media status update or when you're thinking about actually creating them, what tools or what kind of tips can you give that make it a lot easier for you to avoid this paralysis of not posting so you can consistently show up for your followers?
One thing I've been noticing more and more is that I'm needing to optimize content per platform a
Mm.
lot more than I was in the past, because I can't just take, let's say, a blog I wrote or a blog a client wrote, post it across all their platforms, and then that's it, you're done. Because it might do, I think it has the potential to do well across all platforms, but the way you deliver it is going to be very different. With LinkedIn, for instance, we know that text heavy posts actually do well on LinkedIn, where they might not do well on Facebook.
Ah.
So the way I frame content for LinkedIn will be very different for Facebook. And then you want to take into consideration the demographics. Facebook tends to have an older audience than Instagram does. I've noticed a lot of the Twitter audience for a lot of clients, and even for my own business, they really like quick facts, like short little snippets, actionable tips. Blog content doesn't always hit a home run there. So it can be frustrating because I know people like to schedule things out in one fell swoop. It saves them time and it's more efficient. And if it works for you, then absolutely do it. But I believe it's worth testing, putting a little bit more time into individual platforms to see what really resonates with that platform's audience.
I love this theme of testing that has come out in almost all of your answers. And I think we need to really listen to that in this way that social media isn't something we're born knowing how to do. And everyone's audience is so different. So taking this testing mentality that Megan's been sharing with us truly to heart is going to change the game for your social media feed. So take these tips so seriously. Megan, you have been such a wealth of knowledge and inspiration here. And I would love for you to just leave our community with one more marketing tip that you really feel passionate about sharing today.
Um, I know this is kind of abstract, but really just going back to what I said earlier on about making it your primary goal to just provide the best work that you can. Don't try to cheat the platforms or cheat Google, and really invest in yourself as a professional. Go take online courses. There are plenty that are free or very cheap. Learn more about different tools and the platforms. And the social media industry is getting so saturated. Like I use cold emailing to land my clients. They get emails from people like me every single day. And if you want to really stand out from your competition, you have to provide a better service, plain and simple. And there's no shortcut to that. It's just being really, really good at what you do.
Oh man, guys, that is so true. The best way to combat any algorithm changes or anything like that is to just produce really valuable content. So take that to heart so seriously. Megan, I am so fired up here to make sure that I take some of these tips into our own marketing. And I would love to hear from you guys out in the Edgar community. What resonated with you today? What do you think you're going to change up in your own social media posting or content creation systems? Let us know in the comments below, like this video, and share it out if you know someone who could really take these tips to heart. Thanks so much for joining us today, Megan.
Thank you.